Hello! Thank you for joining me. My name is Chrissy Hodges, and I am an OCD advocate. More in particular, I'm a Pure O advocate, which probably not this month, but at some month I'm going to go really in depth of what that means, and you're going to think, what in the world? But I'll try to explain it the best way I can. But this month I'm going to talk a little bit more about having OCD and in general having mental illness in the holidays, which can, as we all know, can be really different. I mean, come on, let's just face it. The holidays in general are hard, but let's just throw a mental illness on top of it, and I don't even know what to tell you. I do know what to tell you, and that's why I'm here today. A little shameless promotion first. I am a mental health advocate. I blog and do videos, but I have a really exciting announcement. My memoir is coming out at the end of this month. Okay, now I'm going to turn this into inspirational. I was 20 years old when I was diagnosed. I attempted suicide. I was hospitalized in a psychiatric hospital, and I was treated for OCD. And the moment that I thought to myself, okay, maybe I can get a handle on this, and the last 12 years of my life really doesn't have to ruin the rest of my life, which was a long journey. I remember thinking to myself, what if one day I could speak out loud about what I've been through when it comes to pure OCD and all of the depression that goes along with that. And I thought, what if I could write a book talking about my experience and my mental illness, my OCD went, no, you're not, because you need to feel ashamed and you need to feel embarrassed, and nobody wants to hear about you because they're going to judge you and they're going to think you're nuts and they're going to think you're cuckoo and all of those things. Well, let me tell you something. 19 years later, my book is finally publishing. Yes, it took 19 years. My whole life on OCD, pure OCD, surviving a suicide attempt, and dealing with a lot of stigma will be coming out at the end of this month. So hopefully next month when I'm doing this live video, I'll be able to hold it up and be like, look, y'all! And you can like clap. Anyway, sorry, shameless promotion. Other than that, okay, let's get down to it, because if any of you know me, you know I'm a rambler. So I have notes today. So if I'm rambling, you can just put in the comments down there, and I'll be like, okay, got it. Unless you're one of my friends and you're just messing with me, then no. Okay, why are the holidays so difficult for us who have mental illness and who have OCD in particular? That's the only one I can really speak for. However, I believe a lot of us share the same experiences when it comes to mental illness and stigma. I have 3 reasons here that are going to go a little bit deeper than maybe you want to on this topic, but I think it's important to get out there because I think it's things that are buried deep inside of us that we don't always talk about. So, if you get a little bit triggered, feel free to message me later and we can talk more about it. But these are some things that I've had to deal with, and I know that a lot of people who have mental illness have had to deal with it too. Okay. Now, because we have a mental illness, and because, like for me, because I have OCD and I had depression and have depression and suicidal tendencies, you know, there's no shortage of self-esteem issues. Just gonna go there. I mean, you know, it's hard to just like come out on top with your self-esteem after not being able to trust your brain and the perception that's going on. So that can make it really difficult in big, like, momentous times of our life, like holidays, which are 3 weeks away. We're already through one holiday. But I'm going to tell you, one of the hardest things that for me was when I was younger, before I was diagnosed and completely saturated in my symptoms, and then I was diagnosed. All of a sudden, it was, oh my gosh, where did Chrissy go? Where was that person that I used to be? Trust me, having mental health symptoms and OCD symptoms they are not fun, okay? I was not having a good time when I was undiagnosed and symptomatic. However, it's all I knew, right? And so when I was diagnosed, I thought that girl who used to exist, that had all of these dreams and all of these goals, and maybe one day is going to have a family, and maybe one day everyone would gather at my house for Christmas, and maybe, you know, everything would be okay one day. I always thought I would just wake up and everything would be okay. All of a sudden, that girl was gone. And all that was left for me at that time was OCD and mental illness. And this person that I barely recognized in the mirror anymore. And I know that a lot of us go through that. It's the grieving process of who we used to be before we were diagnosed, and all of a sudden have to deal with this massive title of mental illness or whatever your diagnosis is. Now, I don't have a lot of solutions for that, and I want to be more of a solution-focused video. But I do want you to know it's a common fear, and you are not alone. Grief is huge when it comes to living with a mental illness, looking at the person that you were before and having to say goodbye to that person and embrace the new person. It takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of support. And frankly, for me, coming into contact with people who experience the same things as myself, not just OCD, but bipolar and depression and anxiety. Learning about these people and hearing their lived experience, I thought, oh my God, these are my people. I'm not alone, and we can get through this together. So I think at the holidays, this can be a really big trigger for all of us. You know, we go home, we go back to this environment that may remind us of what we used to be when we thought everything was okay and maybe our just perception was off, and we may be reminded of that person that we had to grieve. I want you to know that this is big for me. It may not be big for you, but that I try to keep that in mind when I'm visiting family, when I'm back in a situation that reminds me of this grieving process that I had to deal with. And so I just wanted to share with you in case you went through it too. The second is this, and this is also a deep topic as well. I was discussing this yesterday with my colleague and partner, podcast partner of Two Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, Kat Atwell. Yay, Kat! We were talking about what it means to your family and the people you grew up with when you have. I wish all of you could raise your hands out there. I could see how many of you would say, that makes me the black sheep of the family. Because that's how I felt. And that's how a lot of people that I work with feel. Okay, this is not an illness that we ask for. This is not an illness that we can oftentimes control. This is not something we're so excited about when we're symptomatic. I know I'm not. But we could take it on sometimes in this way of, I did something wrong. I am the worst person in the family now. I'm this horrible person and they look at me differently. Again, I can't really, you know, share with you a lot of solution focused stuff right now. But again, just to let you know, you're not alone. And many of us feel that way. I read this quote the other day, and of course I'm going to quote it completely wrong. But it was something along the lines of, if someone can't see your worth, then there's no room for them in your life. Now, I'm not saying, oh, wait. Don't go home and be like, forget y'all. That's not what I'm talking about. But what I'm saying is that it's important to understand that your worth did not change at all the moment that you were diagnosed with a mental illness. Oh my gosh. In my mind, 19 years later after diagnosis and treatment and dealing with stigma, I look at you, or I think about people who have gone through these massive trauma and suffering and stigma. Your worth just went up. Your worth just made you connect deeply to people and on a level that not everyone will ever be able to understand. In the eyes of people who have walked in your shoes, in my shoes, your worth is immeasurable. So keep that in mind as you're entering the holidays and you go home and you think, I'm the person that is a failure or the black sheep of the family. Because this is not uncommon for us to think because we were diagnosed with OCD or mental illness. But a few things I'm going to tell you before I move on to the next thing, which is mental illness is not your fault. You are not defined by your mental illness. There is not any way that you end and mental illness begins, or mental illness ends and you begin. You are you, and you have become the person that you are because of what you've been through. And with all the suffering that we do with mental illness, you should be proud of your resilience, how brave you are, how strong you are. Think about that going into these holidays. The next thing I wanted to address, this is not as deep, so yay, is one of the things that I had a hard time with in my 20s. I'm a lot older than that now, but in my 20s, I used to, and this was, only a few years after diagnosis and treatment, I used to worry that I wasn't as good as everybody else kind of got to go on with their life. They didn't have this huge break in their life to deal with this mental illness, this stigmatized, horrible thing that made you so awful, like in my mind. And so I would go home and think, oh, well, these people have these great jobs and then they're getting married and they're doing all these things like quote normal people do. And my biggest success at this point was graduating therapy. But that's not something we're going to toast at the Christmas table. Maybe we would now because I would force everyone to. But back then that was really difficult. So one thing I would suggest to you is this. Again, the comparison is difficult because we automatically compare ourselves to other people. We don't mean to. It's just how it is. Almost in snap judgments when we meet people. But knowing your family for years and years, since you were young and you can barely remember anything, that makes things even worse. Remember that what you've been through and the mental illness you have been struggling with or overcome or doing these awesome things, or you're in treatment or you're contemplating treatment. Remember, this makes you so incredible. This makes you successful. This makes you somebody that is going to understand so much of a different layer. Again, I'm saying the same thing, but it applies in so many realms here. And that you do not have to compare yourself to anybody else because you alone and how you are resilient and strong are good enough. And if you're not getting that from your family, click onto mental health on the Mighty. And read the stories of these strong individuals. Listen to these videos, these comments of people, and you'll remember that you aren't alone. Okay, so I'm going to focus a little bit on OCD. However, I know that you'll be able to relate to if you have another disorder. So forgive me if you feel like I'm leaving you out, but I can only talk about my lived experience. So I don't want to presume about other disorders. So just wanted to put that little disclaimer in. Okay, with OCD is highly prone to triggers, and probably other mental illnesses are too. So just follow me here. With OCD, a lot of stuff revolves around rituals, and a lot of stuff revolves around, well, if I'm here and this happened, then I need to do this, and I need to do that, and I need proof, and I need disproof, and I need this, and I need that, and then there are all these layers, right? So triggers can be everywhere when you're going home. Okay, I mean, in in reality here, we're all going back to the places that we grew up, probably in some of the worst times in our illness. You know, the smells, you know, the people, the environment, even sometimes just like the aura, you know, like when I used to go home when I was at 20, my room looked the same damn way it did when I was in college. And I'm like, oh my God, like triggers all over the place. And so it was really difficult for me. So that could be something that's difficult for you. You're going back and communicating with people and being in an environment where the last time you saw them, you may have been not doing well. And so that anxiety right there is enough to feel like crap, right? And so the only way that I could say in a solution-oriented for me is expect it. Go ahead and expect this might be tough, because when you give your permission to set yourself permission, like, this might suck, then all of a sudden the suckiness doesn't really feel all that bad. A very wise man one time, his name is Jody Gamble, and he's a colleague of mine, he said to me, if you are in a space that you can't get out of when it comes to mental illness or depression, get as comfortable as you can in that uncomfortableness, and you will find out that you'll be able to get through it. That has been advice for me that I have dealt with, I mean, through the ages when it comes to my illness, oh Lord, and everything else that doesn't have to do with the illness, let's just put it that way. So for OCD in particular, you are going to really run into a lot of things that are going to make you feel triggered. Okay, the environment you used to be in, you know, even you may just want to go back to some rituals you do to say, oh my gosh, I just have to feel better. Now, that could be detrimental, or it could be the way that you cope. I'm not judging. Do what you need to do, right? But a few things you can do, and this is definitely what I wanted to share with you today. When you're going home for the holidays, or if you're staying home and you have people coming to visit, or hell, if you're alone. I mean, I'm going to tell you, one of the best Christmases I ever had is when I ordered in sushi and I watched a full season of Mad Men all day. It was awesome to be alone. I'm not even an introvert, and I do. What's wrong with me? More than mental illness, I think. Anyway, so a few things that you can do, and there's my yay, podcast partner, Kat. Well, woo, thank you for being here. A few things that you can do off the top of my head, and this is from a peer support perspective. So I work with people in the community. I work with people who have mental illness to help support them and to help move toward recovery. And so from a peer perspective, here's some of the suggestions that I would give in order to cope when you're going home, or if people are coming to visit and you are getting a little off and worried about, you know, things are getting a little overwhelming for me. What can you do? Expect the swinging emotions, okay? I mean, we all know it. The holidays are hard for everyone. It's not just us. They're hard for everyone. How you can be prepared is to say, okay, well, I might be sad. I might be angry. I might start feeling shame, embarrassed. I might start feeling all of this kind of stuff. So expect that to happen versus just going in like, I hope everything is going to be okay and everybody's going to love me and life is going to be good. Because I'm going to tell you, the minute that it doesn't happen, boo, and I'm going to tell you, that is what would typically happen to me. So until I got a handle on it and I started expecting this might be a little bit tough. And then I started to be able to control those emotions versus being surprised by them. Second, set limits and boundaries. Okay, the hard thing is going to be dealing with your family who are going to want to, family or friends or whatever, who are going to want you to do this and they're going to want you to do that. And then you're going to feel like, well, if I don't do this and if I don't do that, then I'm not a team player and I'm not this and I'm not that, I'm not this. Okay. The holidays still have to be about keeping in line with your mental health, right? So set limits and boundaries. Okay. Do you want to maybe just go one place that day, or do you only want to cook this, or do you want to, you know, you don't want to go out to eat, or you don't want to do, it's okay. Just say no. Do what you do to keep your mental health intact. This is an incredible way to manage your symptoms, because then it really is, my mental health is the most important. So I'm going to honor that, and I'm not going to feel guilty for doing that, right? Because everybody's going to leave. Everybody's going to leave, at the end of the Christmas, and everybody's going to go back to their place where they live, or people are going to leave your house or whatever. And you want to make sure that when that happens, you aren't still suffering. So set limits and boundaries. You don't have to do, and you don't have to be everything to everybody. I think this ties in with what I was talking about earlier, where we really want people to think, okay, we're okay, even though we have a mental illness, even though we're struggling, we're okay. We don't have to be everything to everybody to prove that we're okay, to prove that we aren't crazy, to prove that we are. No, that has to do with you just doing what you need to do to take care of yourself. It has nothing to do with whether or not you can or can't do something because of your mental illness. It's hard to tell the difference, but there is a very distinct difference. Take time for yourself. This is huge. So what does that mean? I don't know. Do you meditate? Do you do art? Do you exercise? Do you need to take a walk? Do you need to watch a movie? What do you need to do to take a time out during the day to go, all right, I am just going to center for a little while, and then I'll rejoin the party. Make sure to write that into your routine for the day. And so that way you can process what's going on, because I don't know about y'all, but for me, what happens is I start worrying and I start ruminating about things, and then it all starts to spiral. And unless I take some time to go, what does Chrissy want? What is Chrissy going to do? How can Chrissy stay happy? Then all of a sudden, things pile on top, and before I know it, they've spun out of control. So put yourself as a priority. What makes you feel good? What can you do where you are, or even at your house, to feel okay? Set a routine. I mean, this sounds so stupid and cheesy, but it's true. Like, you've got 4 days, you've got 6 days, you've got 2 days. What are you going to do that day? Are you gonna get up and eat breakfast? Are you gonna go for a walk or go for a run? Or, are you gonna play cards with the family? Oh God, I love doing that canasta. Oh, love it. What are you gonna do? But set that routine, because sometimes when you get out of your routine, your symptoms can sneak up on you, and things can get a little bit out of whack, and you will think, oh my God, like, here we go again. And then that can start off the panic bells. So set the routine for the day. I mean, do you have to stick to it? If people decide to go to a movie and, then no, you don't have to. But either way, that's one way that you can go into it feeling a little bit better. And then finally, exercise is always a good thing. You don't have to go out and scale Mount Everest, but just getting out and getting some fresh air, just getting the heart pumping, walking around, maybe go walk some steps, or, if there's a local gym or something, join it or go for a day or something, and then be able to get that centering again. And then finally, I did see someone comment earlier that she said she's going to be alone on Christmas. And I know that those holidays can be really tough too. And I commented earlier that I have spent Christmas alone as well. I happen to be someone that just likes to spend time alone sometimes. And Sue Ellen, I'm talking to that specifically. Holidays, they're not about family, and they're not about this huge dream. They're not about this huge dream about what things should be. For a lot of people, have jobs, or they spend the day by themselves. What is it that you can do to make yourself feel better, to make yourself feel, excited about the year to come, or excited about giving back? Are there places where you live where you could go volunteer? Or are there, can you go to a soup kitchen and be with other people Or, can you get on Netflix or something and spend an entire day, like I was saying before, like on Mad Men, and look forward to that too. There are all kinds of things, and I know that the holiday a lot of times has some sort of meaning for us that can be really disappointing if it's not held to those expectations. But remember, are set by us. They're not set by anyone else. They're set by us. So we have the ability to adjust those expectations. We have the ability to say, Christmas this year, I'm going to be by myself, which I think I'm going to be too. So maybe I'll go live and I can hang out with you. So we have the opportunity to say, this is what I want the holidays to be, and this is what I'm going to try to make it. And if it doesn't turn out that way, 2017 is only 5 days away after that. And then we'll be here together again to start the new year off and kick it off in high gear and make some goals and hope that the next Christmas we'll be able to spend it together as well. So I just wanted to share those thoughts with you. I am super excited to be part of this opportunity at Mental Health on the Mighty, to be able to share a little bit of my lived experience. I think as we get into the new year, I'll talk a little bit more about my own personal story, and hopefully that will help all of you out there who are suffering with OCD or my type of OCD, to not feel so alone. If you want to know more about me and my story, you can go to www.ChrissieHodges, ChrissieHodges.com, or overcomingocd.net. And I did want to show you this. This is my dog. You see him right there? And I don't know, his name is Hamilton, and I'm telling you, I usually don't have him in the room for live videos because he snores so loud. So afraid that you've been able to hear it. So anyway, thank you so much for joining in today. I needed to hear this information just as much as I hope you did. The holidays can be really tough. If you want to get more of my live videos with my podcast partner for Two Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, Kat Atwell, visit us on Facebook at Two Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. We do all kinds of stigma reduction videos and podcasts that will help you in your journey toward recovery. So thank you so much. I hope that you have a wonderful holiday season. And remember, you do not have to have a horrible holiday or a great holiday or whatever because of your mental illness. You are beautiful and strong and resilient just as you are, and you can be successful despite what you've been through with mental illness. Your worth is incredible. Never forget that. And I so look forward to seeing you in January when we can come face to face again. We can talk about what 2017 is going to look for all of us, and for the stigma reduction for mental health across the world. Thank you, and have a lovely holiday. Your friend and advocate, Chrissy Hodges.